you'll raise your right hand. Do you, Alan Thomas, solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter?
This is for you. Well, actually, it's for him, but it's for you. It might be high. Chaplain Thomas to our group. We kind of met by chance back in November at a very, very critical time in the city. And we got a chance to speak to each other and talk about the chaplaincy and where we wanted to go with it, and my goal to expand it. And we had several different conversations. He started showing up to some meetings and he thought he wanted to serve. So here we are. He's our fourth chaplain, joining Chaplain Mead and Chaplain Rich. And I'm still looking for more. I want more of this type of service here in the community. It's greatly needed. There's lots of places that I hope to take the chaplaincy and interject them into the community. It's one of our community outreach programs. So to pardon the pun, the disciples, I'm gonna send them out. Let's see what we get. So I do appreciate his time and his service, and I do want to welcome him to the department. So with that, Steve, you want to say anything?
Great addition. Been a chaplain before. We're looking for anyone that are within the churches, whether lay pastors, or those that are active within the church.
Steve, could you, yes, could you use the microphone, please?
My big mouth, anyone that is working within your church, either as a Bible teacher or lay pastor, anything that we want to expand it so that we can go out in the community. We respond to the firemen and the policemen, but we also want to serve this great community. All of us love this city and want to just make it better in whatever way we can. And it doesn't matter what church you attend. We would like to see people come out.
Thank you. And with that, we'll send you off and welcome you to our family.
All right, we're going to move on to the consent calendar.
Background information is provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Okay. I am going to open public. Is there everybody good with the consent calendar the way it is? Okay. I'm going to open public comment now regarding the consent calendar. Are there any members of the public inside the chambers who would like to speak regarding any items on the consent calendar? If so, please come to the podium now. Okay. Are there any items on the consent calendar that council would like to remove for separate discussion and possible action? Brian?
Motion to approve the consent calendar is posted.
Well, let me close public comment first and then ask for a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Motion to approve the consent calendar is posted.
Second, if I'm allowed to.
Motion by Raymond, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we're going to move on to public hearings. First is adopting a resolution setting the fiscal year 2023-24 miscellaneous fee schedule. I'm now going to open the public hearing and ask the finance director to present her report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The miscellaneous fee schedule is used for the city to recoup our costs in our processes, in our fees, and it's amended from time to time. And yearly on July 1, it is increased by the Consumer Price Index. So this year, the Consumer Price Index was 4.897, and those are the increases that you will see throughout the fee schedule. In addition, there were some new fees. They are double underlined in bold, and anything adjusted that is crossed out is going to be removed. Some of those items, a new fee for after-hour reconnection fee for the SB 998. That was a state requirement for when we start doing shutoffs. We added the word exclusive use only to the photography session for the, let me see what fee that was. For the 6-month option for the tennis key, renting out the tennis keys. We also added a daily rental rate for the rooms in the community center. You'll see an increase in fire inspection fees that it's by $18. All the fees increased by $18, and that was the cost of using fire because there's a lot of them. And we've also had some corrections that are marked up on the re-inspection fees. And if you have any questions on the fee schedule, I'd be happy to answer any of them.
Does council have any questions? Nope. Okay. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? If so, please come forward. Okay, don't see anybody coming forward. I will now close the public hearing. Would any council member like to make a motion regarding this item?
I just want to confirm this is 100% recovering our costs. We're not making a profit on this.
Yes, correct. These fees are just to recoup our costs on what it costs us to do the services listed on the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, council motion?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ambrose, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next item is number 14, resolutions adopting fiscal year 2023-24 budget, including 5-year capital improvement plan and adopting salary schedule A24 effective June 22, 2023. Now open the public hearing, and staff can please give us a report.
Also, responsible, comprehensive, and balanced sustainable budget for 23-24. And the budget tonight was based and consistent with the recommendations at the council public meeting held, or the workshop held on May 30th. We've included those or incorporated those in tonight's presentation as well. The budget for fiscal year 23-24 is again projected to exceed the City Council's policy of 10% general fund reserve at our 25% targeted rate of $5.5 million, while continuing to increase the service levels and projects. This also leaves the general fund with an unassigned balance of $3.9 million in addition to the 25% reserve. This is a result of continuous work by our executive management team, as well as identifying opportunities for reduction in costs and deliberate spending on our department's behalf. These policies are to ensure that the city will always have sufficient funding available to meet its operating capital and debt service obligations. The city's financial condition continues to be stronger today because of financial policies put in place by the council and the commitment throughout our organization. In addition, the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, one-time funding has helped the city to continue to build a strong, resilient, and equitable recovery process by one-time spending investments. And this will support long-term growth and opportunity for the city. Staff continues to be conservative in revenue estimated, and that's outlined in the budget as well, while continuously looking for ways to identify operational efficiencies. So on behalf of the staff, I look forward to working with the City Council and the residents of Atwater to ensure the city's future reflects the City Council's vision of promoting Atwater while providing accountability, integrity, and reliability. And with that, I'll hand it over to our finance director.
Okay, so let me make some clarifications on public comment for this evening. We are going to allow a little bit more public comment than we did at the budget workshop. I was not overly thrilled with the way that turned out, so I'm going to do a little bit different here. Delilah is going to give her presentation, her slide deck, which is on the screen, and there were copies in the back. I don't know what's back there now. But there will be 4 opportunities to ask questions. You get your 3 minutes. So one portion will be after the general fund budget, or general fund section. We'll have another one after the end of the public safety section. And we'll have one after the enterprise funds section, which is water, sewer, and garbage. And then the final one will be on the, what do you call this part here? The fund balances? Fund balances section, okay. And the 5-year capital improvement program. So, okay. It's all yours.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As City Manager mentioned, on the May 30th budget workshop, we went by fund in detail of revenue and expenditures, but this is more a high level, and we're looking at all our major funds and funds with operating budgets. Overall, this is an overview of all funds citywide, so it includes governmental, general government funds, enterprise, any grant funds, transportation funds, and internal service funds. We're estimating a total of $64.96 million in revenue. So again, all funds. And then in revenues, which include transfers in, and our net expenditures are $67.88 million. On the budget document, there's a fund balance projection page, and you'll see this later on in the presentation as well, and that's where these numbers will be reflected. Now we're going to have a breakdown of budget by major categories, and the first is the general fund. So general fund is where all our general governmental services are budgeted, such as public safety, police and fire, other general government operations, including admin, finance, parks and recreation, and community development. So for the general fund, the proposed budget is estimating revenue and transfers in at $19.41 million. Our expenditures and transfers out are budgeted at $22.31 million, and that leaves us with a net effect to the fund balance of a negative $2.91 million. So although there are more expenses than revenue, we are still projecting a positive fund balance, because at the end of this fiscal year, so by June 30th, 2023, we are projecting to end this year at $12.4 million. So when you take the net effect of what we're budgeting, 12.4 minus the 2.91, we get the estimated fund balance at June 30th, 2024 to be $9.5 million. And this graph here just shows, we could see the general fund balance, a historic trend from fiscal year 2018 to our proposed 23-24 budget. From around 2011 to fiscal year 2019, the city's general fund operated in a negative fund balance. And through the city council's fiscal solvency and decision-making, the city has been able to grow that fund balance and maintain a positive fund balance for 5 consecutive years now. For fiscal year 23-24, you will see the fund balance does drop, but we'll go into more detail as the expenses that we're projecting. The city is doing more maintenance on parks. We're doing a lot more than we have in the past. Our council established the general fund reserve of 10%. So it is the goal number 1, ensure financial solvency in the city of Atwater's 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. In addition, there's resolution 3068-19 that was adopted in March 2019 that says the 10% minimum is a target level and the reserve should be increased over time. So for fiscal year 23-24, it proposes the 5th consecutive year of achieving that 10% general fund reserve, and it's the 2nd consecutive year of achieving a 25% general fund reserve. So we have increased it to 25, and this budget reflects that 25% reserve. This is a better view of the general fund reserve trend over the last 10 years, so all the way through fiscal year 2019. So as of 2019, the general fund, as we mentioned, was operating at a negative. In fiscal year 2020, not only was there a 10% reserve, we had a restricted unassigned fund balance actually of $1.5 million above the 10%. The first year we were able to do that was that fiscal year 2020. And in fiscal year 2020 and 2021, we maintained the 10% reserve. Last fiscal year 2022 is when we increased it to 12%, and in 2023 we increased the reserve to 25%. So we're maintaining the 25% in 2024. The next slide discusses personnel for the fiscal year 23-24 budget. So it includes funding for staffing of 111 personnel. That's a 2.5 increase from fiscal year 22-23. And I have the detail provided right below as to what that consists of. The salary schedule reflects a 4% cost of living adjustment and increases related to existing MOUs with the city's labor groups. And there's also increase in fire personnel, allowing for a 3-person staffing at each fire station. And the next slide is just a chart historically looking at personnel numbers if you'd like to see how the city has been changing over time. Since we are discussing general fund, the next slide is general fund revenues. So it's a summary by major revenue category. We have the first column is the audited fiscal year 21-22 amounts. Then you see the amended budgeted as of February 27, 2023. So this is only the budgeted amounts. It's not what we're projecting. We are projecting to receive more than those budgeted amounts. And the last column is our proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. So here you could see our largest revenue sources are property tax, sales tax, and charges for service. And these revenues, we are using the conservative estimates, whether it's from a consultant or looking at the data ourselves and using a conservative approach. The next slide is general fund expenditures. Although expenditures have increased, we are projecting the sufficient fund balance to support these expenditures. Some of our largest increases we'll go into detail on the next slide. We have fire department had the largest, non-departmental was next, police was third, and our interfund transfers was last. This slide, it goes into more detail on the reason for those increases. So our CAL FIRE contract for the general fund only had about a 1.08 million increase from last fiscal year. So the original contract in totality was 3.6 million, and this year is about 5.5 million. And Fire will go into more detail later, but that's not only 100% paid by the general fund. You have a portion paid by general fund, a portion paid by public safety transactions and use tax, which is the Measure B, and a portion paid by CFD. So the portion to the general fund was about a 1 million increase. We had an increase in non-departmental expenses due to our building maintenance expenses, which is an internal service fund that gets allocated. We added more square footage. We added Civic Center 1 for fiscal year 23-24. Our police department had increases in salary and benefits and machinery and equipment. We had increases in transfers out of the general fund to the general fund capital, and that's mostly due to park and recreation maintenance and upgrades, and you'll see those expenses later on. In addition, we are continuing to plan for the future, and in our effort to try to be more proactive rather than reactive, we are budgeting this year as well $100,000 to PERS and $100,000 to OPEBs, and this is the fourth year the city's been contributing to the trust. And we are continuing to reinstate funding to the Recreation and Community Events Department. So you'll see increase, as we saw in previous slides, in personnel, and even their programs. We're budgeting for more programs this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. You can take a break, take a breather. Does the council have any questions on the information that's been presented so far? Okay. Does the public have any questions on the information presented so far? If so, you may come to the podium. It would be my preference that we focus on what was presented so we can keep things
I'll try.
easier. I know you will.
Linda Dash, Atwater. Okay. General fund, I believe the council budget comes out of the general fund, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, my suggestion to the council is that number one, that every council member be given a city cell phone. So that way we're able to contact you, and at the city pay for this. We're able to contact you after hours at any time, really, if there's an issue. We don't want to blow up your personal cell phones. And I know you don't want everybody in this city to have your personal cell phone. You won't ever sleep, have any peace. I also think that times have changed, costs have gone up, and I think that each council member should be given a stipend of between $300 and $350 a month to help them maintain their vehicles that they use to go back and forth to meetings representing us taxpayers. And gas is not cheap anymore. They used to do it a long time ago when there was money in the reserve, and I think that you need to start that up again. It's just my humble opinion. That's one thing. Surprised I even suggested it, right? Because I've thought it before. I also am concerned about, okay, again, general fund, your Parks and Recreation, that comes out of general fund, and I noticed on there that you did have part-time rec supervisor, and now you don't have a part-time rec supervisor. And I'd like to see that stay in there because that person that has that position has brought in, I believe, close to $500,000 grant from First Five. It's really helped the city as well as 4 to 5 interns from UC Merced. Also in the general fund, I would like to see if there's a possibility. I believe that the city manager and the city attorney, excuse me, answer directly to the city council, and I would like to see with the police chief go under that also. So you would have the city manager, city attorney, and your police chief come under the city council. I also am concerned about your public works. You know, they're out there 24/7. They bailed us out a heck of a lot of water when we had these storms, and I think there should be some money in there that you might be able to share with them for their salaries and the equipment that they have to use and maintain. And I'm very disappointed that maybe some of the supervisors didn't get up here before me and fight for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, did you want to speak about the Bloss House? This would be the time to do that.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and staff. My name is Greg Olzak, President of the Atwater Historical Society, and I wanted to be here to advocate and support the allotted money that is going towards the Bloss Home this year. As you know, we do have a lot of improvements that we are undertaking on the inside as part of the museum. We are in the process of redoing George Bloss's bedroom and the guest bedroom, which was formerly the train room. And so we're making good progress, and we're very happy with that, and we'd like to invite you to see it when it's done. We will let you know. And as far as the outside of the Bloss home and the outbuildings, they are in need of some deferred maintenance. And we've had Justin over and the mayor and looking around to see what we are looking at. So anyway, we do appreciate your consideration, and we thank you very much for that.
All right, thank you.
If you have any questions, be glad to answer.
No,
Thank you.
We're good.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Mary McWaters. I'm with AFSCME Local 2703. Myself and my coworker here, who will come next, we represent the represented employees for the City of Atwater. I want to discuss the part about the ARPA funds in the budget. The American Rescue Plan Act funds were provided can be used for a premium pay for eligible workers who perform the essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency, or to provide grants to third-party employees. These are workers who have been and continue to be relied on to maintain continuity of the operations of the essential critical infrastructure sectors, including those who are critical to protecting the health and well-being of our communities. Our workers here for the City of Atwater worked continuously throughout the pandemic. I am very disappointed to see there is nothing allotted in the ARPA funds for our workers here in the City of Atwater. We asked to go meet and confer over it, and we were told that you guys were adamantly against it. I would like you to reconsider and see that you do what's right for the employees. Other cities have given considerably to their employees. We would like to see that happen again, or like to see it happen here. We've received some little amounts, but nothing substantial. Again, there was over $4 million there, and not 1 cent went towards the employees. That's all. I'll let my coworker Debbie take over.
Hold on just a sec. Okay, you're good to go. We reset the timer for you.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, Council, City Manager. First, I'd like to my name is Debbie Macias. I'm a business agent also with AFSCME. I've recently assumed representation over the miscellaneous and the clerical unit. Previously, I was working with the mid-management unit, but I've been here in the City of Atwater roughly for about the last 10 years, working with AFSCME and its groups. I want to commend you, first of all, on a very positive budget, and congratulations, because I've been here through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm really excited to see that there is a solid growth, fund balance, and a positive projection moving forward. As you can see, we've got a large constituency here tonight. There are a lot of people that are very concerned, very, very hurt, very distraught about the fact that you've forgotten completely about us. So other cities have given substantial monies, as Mary said, and I'm going to rattle off a few numbers here. City of Modesto, upwards of $7,500 in 3 different payments from ARPA funds. City of Mendota, 1 lump sum, and City of Mendota small. I represent them myself. I actually helped negotiate this particular deal. $12,500, half of the $25,000 that they could get in the premium pay, they gave them half. $12,500. It's a tiny little city. City of Manteca, $10,000. City of Riverbank, mid-managers got $8,500, and the miscellaneous people got $7,500. Your small city of Waterford, $15,000, 2 payments of $7,500 apiece. City of Ceres, 2 payments of $5,000 apiece. Obviously, these funds were meant to be spent on these essential employees, and you've completely forgotten about them. Yes, we're getting a 4% cost of living increase, and thank you for that, and we appreciate that. But have you seen the cost of living lately? It's absolutely warranted and absolutely necessary, and it's critical to keep up with the cost of living in any city, in any in this state, in any state in the nation, quite frankly. But where's our ARPA money? Where's our ARPA money going? Well, when I look at the sheet, I see that $1 million is going to Civic Center number 2 city building. And what does it say it's for? Totally, the explanation is additional request of $1 million. So I don't know where that's going. A lot of this stuff I can see that it's warranted. Some of your charging stations, your EV stations, things like that, I would think that you could get grants. I would think that remodeling your police department and doing those types of things for the $300,000 would be something you can do out of your Measure B funds. So we're just hoping that you will reconsider giving your employees a fair share.
Okay, thank you for your information. Anybody else?
I wanted to also echo what has been said about the ARPA funds. The ARPA money is public money. There's no getting around that. That is public money. And as public money, the public should be deciding. Not 5 people, city manager, staff. The city needs to allow the citizens who this money belongs to in an open forum, unrestricted time, to stand and make their case on where they believe the money should be spent. It's a simple concept. It's called transparency. So let's see about, doing something along those lines. Looking into the budget, special events. Special events, is just another one of those ways to grow government, and that's what it is in the budget. To have 2 people and the expenses to go with those 2 people alone, we're talking $53,324. Public Works. Lots been said about Public Works, and I agree with it all 100%. One of the things that was included into the budget was $25,000 for graffiti removal. I have been up here beating up on you guys for months about the graffiti abatement contract by a contractor with an open-end, no sunset contract that has not lived up to the terms and conditions of that contract. And now you're going to put $25,000 into Public Works only to snatch it out and give it away to somebody who's scamming the city on the contract. Is there any one of the people here who is wearing reflectorized lime green shirts tonight that can't work a spray painter for $25,000? Not to mention the $48,000 that is paid out every year for this contract. Why not give $48,000 additional dollars to the Public Works employees, as been said tonight? Their equipment is, some of it I know, has got to be on its last leg. It needs to be done. Special department expense, $50,000. Are you guys really going to approve that tonight? Come on. Come on. $50,000 for what? For nothing. Maintenance districts, $500 for graffiti abatement also. all of this totaled up comes to $128,824 of waste. Of waste. Come on, guys. You can do better. Now, here's what's not in the budget. You haven't put in anything about litigation. You haven't put anything in about marketing and promotion.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, you were going to give it a little extra, were you not?
You got 3 minutes. You'll have a chance at the next section that Delilah reads. You're getting more time, Jim. Okay, anybody else on this section about the general fund? Okay, does the council have anything? No. Okay. I do have one thing. Delilah, Jim was mentioning about the council funds, the $50,000. That's been removed from the budget, hasn't it?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so on to the next section, please.
So the next few slides, general fund does pay for public safety expense, but there are also a few other funds that have public safety, both fire and police, and we'll go over those in the next few slides. So for our Fund 004, Public Safety Transactions and Use Tax, this is now the Measure B. It was effective in April 2023. We were at 0.5%, and now we're at 1 full percent. So the revenue doubled in this fund. But as you see, revenue doubled, and we filled it with expense, whether it was the portion of the fire contract, personnel, equipment. So we're projecting a fund balance at the end of this fiscal year of $11,373. And again, the detail line by line item is in the budget document. So here is a summary of the line by line items. So it's the Public Safety Transactions and Use Tax Expenditure Plan. And this plan here went to the Citizens Oversight Committee on June 6, 2023. So it's been reviewed by the committee as well, and they also saw the detail. Our first column is the fiscal year 21-22 actuals. Our second column is what we're projecting for 22-23. And the last column is fiscal year 23-24 on how we're budgeting the funds to be spent. Just some budget highlights. PD has a new public safety dispatcher budgeted out of here, 1 new admin vehicle, and 3 additional black and white vehicles through their enterprise lease. And fire, out of the $5.6 million contract, Measure B is paying for about $1.6 million. That's about an $804,000 increase from last fiscal year. And this increases fire personnel to have a 3-person staffing at both stations. Fire is also getting a new Type 6 engine and much needed improvements to Station 41. So those are all going to be budgeted and paid for by this Measure B. The next public safety fund is Police Facility Impact Fee. And here we have budgeted the dispatch workstations. So that was new to the budget. And then also we moved some budget around from last fiscal year. We had encumbered a patrol SUV and 2 electric pickups. So we budgeted them again this year. If you don't receive them by June 30th, we have to budget for next year as well. So we put them in this fund because there was fund balance available. And this funds improvements of police facilities and equipment purchases that benefit public safety. Our next public safety fund is Fund 5050 Community Facilities District. So the revenues from the Community Facilities District Fund, the salary and benefits for 3 positions in police field operations. You have 1 sergeant and 2 police officers budgeted in here. It also pays for $100,000 of the CAL FIRE contract. And that was all public safety funds.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so now we'll have question period, or public comment period, for this section that was just presented on public safety. Is there anybody in the chambers that would like to speak to this item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, community members, staff. Gabe Santos. Very excited to see this Measure B funds being used appropriately, and I'm very excited to see all of these line items that are on here. It's good to see Station 41 getting upgraded as we increase staffing. There's going to need to be improvements to those stations. It's really good to see this finally moving forward. All the hard work of the community and the community support. I appreciate all your hard work and appreciate all the community's support in passing Measure B. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, council members, at the budget meeting, I talked to you about the CFDs. I won't bore you with the whole speech again. Hope you guys looked at it and reviewed it. 6 officers were not, there was a savings of 6 officers for salary and benefits this past year for some time. Maybe the finance director can tell you just how much money was saved from those 6 positions and what happened to it. So again, I'm asking you to look at this again and see if it can be suspended or perhaps done away with if we actually need it now, since we have Measure B. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Keith has said. You know, you guys are getting, from Measure B alone, another additional $4 million annually. It's more than enough to cover the amounts for a CFD. Do you know, community a favor that is under that. You know, I seem to recall it being said here that taxes are theft. Didn't we say that once? Yeah, multiple times. The oversight, it was mentioned oversight of funds from Measure H. I was just at the last meeting for oversight. One of the biggest, probably the major flaw of Measure B and of Measure H is that your oversight is anything but that. There's no recommendations, there's no nothing. It is just a whole bunch of chatter about this and that having to do with public safety, but council doesn't get recommendations, they don't get any kind of feedback at all as to how money is being spent. Additionally, only that which is in the quarter is brought up. In other words, this last meeting was only up to March 31st. That's it. It's not up to date. So now we wait for the next meeting to come around, and everything that was from March 31st up to the next meeting it's like you're waiting to see what's going to go on from way back March 31st. That's absurd. Why can't it be right up to date? How hard is that? And give this council the opportunity to be given recommendations and that from the oversight committees. But the idea of CFDs for public safety in areas where some people, such as Keith, have to pay extra in their property tax, you've got $4 million now, guys, plus any other funds that are coming in by way of the budgetary system. Let's give it to them.
Thank you. Anybody else? Does the council have any questions about this section? Brian?
I just wanted to address former Mayor Price's comments there. Say the Measure B committee does meet and they find an expenditure to be not in line with Measure B. How do we handle that?
So if there was an expenditure, if that was inappropriately budgeted to the measure fund, it would be redacted from that measure, put back into the appropriate fund, and then the measure would be reimbursed for that amount. So we did have something similar with potentially some radio ads. That was refunded back in, even though it was an allowable expense. It was a ruling on it that was allowable expense. Out of an error of transparency, we did refund that back, or we refunded the measure, the money, and put it back into the general fund and budgeted out of the general fund.
And I'd
That
like
would
to-
be the same case.
So basically the general fund will refund or reimburse Measure B.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And then to add on that, to get more if you want more data as it comes, it would be the warrant that's published every council meeting. It has the fund balance it's coming out of, so at that time, you could see the checks before they go out.
Okay, because I know this isn't the place, but I do think there does need to be more oversight for that. So, thank you.
All right, Delilah? Any? No? Okay. Delilah, go ahead with the next section, please.
Okay, moving on is the enterprise funds. So the enterprise funds is our water, our wastewater, and our sanitation. Our water is our domestic water system of the city. The wastewater is our sewer treatment, distribution, collection, and transmission of all those systems. And sanitation is our garbage, which we contract with Mid-Valley as of July 1, 2023. The water fund is next, and then fund balance are shown there, and just some budget highlights. For the water enterprise fund, we have budgeted the water rate study. The rates were effective up to fiscal year 2023, so they're not going to increase until a rate study is done. We are budgeting the water master plan as well, and the water department is getting 3 new service trucks for this new fiscal year. Our water capital replacement fund has budgeted a project of a property acquisition for a future well site. And our TCP fund 6007 has a project called the Well 20A rehab, and it's budgeted continued well remediation for the TCP from the drinking water system. The wastewater fund is next, and some budget highlights on the wastewater fund. It contains appropriations for operations of the wastewater distribution and collection system. It contains debt service payments for our wastewater refunding bonds. The sewer rate study and sewer master plan are both budgeted. Sewer is getting 2 new service trucks, which are replacing existing service trucks. And then some new projects include Atwater Boulevard drainage improvements and Eucalyptus and First Street drainage improvements. Our last enterprise fund is sanitation. So sanitation is the where we contract with Mid-Valley on collection services. Some new fees to this budget due to SB 1383. We have compost for SB 1383 compliance fees and recyclable processing fees that are large. And this just some good news that the sanitation fund is debt-free. So when they did do the rate study, it did not include paying off old debt. So it's just current operating expenses needed to fund the operation. And those were the 3 enterprise funds.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions on the enterprise funds? I did want to say, since Felicia's sitting here in the front row, you should be happy to see that we're giving $150,000 for the Eucalyptus and First Street drainage improvements. Since you live right in front of where the outfall is, or the intake, whatever it is, yeah. I got several calls over there this winter. Anybody from the public wish to speak on the enterprise funds?
Now, the enterprise funds encompasses Public Works?
Sewer,
Dash out
sewer, water, garbage.
Are these guys redheaded stepchildren? Because what I can't understand is, I just heard that they received a 4% COLA. You know what, okay, this is, okay, I love public safety, I'll fight for them, but I also believe in these guys too, because they're out and they're digging the caca, they're out on the weekends, after hours, you know, digging this out of the water and just cleaning up messes that maybe we've made or maybe Mother Nature's made. And y'all have cars that you drive that they fix, and they fix them probably when you need them right away. And I don't understand why you can't find a little bit more money to give them a substantial raise like you've given public safety. I think it's only fair. So they have families too, and they have bills too, just like public safety, Public Works, public safety, all's the same familia, honey. Okay, so I'm telling you, they're not your redheaded stepchildren. These are good guys and gals that work to keep our toilets running the way they should and the water running, and it's nice, clean water, hopefully. But maybe you could find in the, in your heart somewhere to bump that up a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on the enterprise funds? Okay, see no one come forward. Delilah, you can carry on, please.
So the next two slides are just a summary of the fund balances. We are projecting positive fund balances for all citywide funds. We talked about the general fund and other public safety funds and also reviewed the enterprise funds. Most of the other funds are transportation-related funds. They call them special revenue funds. The meaning the revenues received are restricted for special projects. We also have development impact fee funds. The revenues are collected from developers for their impact on the city. And on the next slide is a continuation of those funds and what we're projecting their fund balances to be. We have our internal services funds that are shown on the bottom of this page, which provide service to multiple departments, and funds for equipment and maintenance, IT, and employee benefits. So tonight we just covered the major funds that have an operating budget. Our next few slides are the 5-year capital improvement program. So all the projects you see in here are budgeted within the fund throughout the budget document. This is a summary of all the projects, but the items with an asterisk are major public works projects such as land, buildings, and public infrastructure that must conform with the city's general plan. And those projects have gone through the Planning Commission for review. We discussed the highlights or new capital projects for the enterprise funds in the previous slides. And here you could see the general fund capital, where we have a lot of our transportation related projects in there, plus the new projects I was mentioning that the general fund is now transferring to pay for these projects. So you have the Ralston Park restrooms, Veterans Park amenity and parking expansion, splash pad seated shading area, and tennis court resurfacing. And on the next slide is a continuation of projects. You have the ARPA fund that we discussed at our budget workshop on May 30th and what was decided for the projects there, and then some transportation funds right below it. On the next slide, I do want to point out one new fund that was reinstated, the Parks Grant Fund, and that was the $410,000 First 5 grant. It's going to be spent on various new park playgrounds, the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and training on how to use and maintain that equipment. The next slide is just the enterprise funds that we had discussed, so water, sewer, and garbage, and their projects that are budgeted. And that concludes our presentation for the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. So city staff, along with direction from council, have developed a good sustainable budget, increasing service levels while maintaining our reserve requirements. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. We also have our department heads here if you have any questions, particularly on their operating budget.
Okay, thank you. The council members have any questions? Brian?
So you have the traffic signal going in at Juniper and Bridgewater. That's only going in because of the new elementary school that's going in there. Is the school district taking in on that?
Greg can speak to that, but yes, they are paying their portion of that signal. The city is paying a portion, but the school district is also paying their portion.
Okay, because it wasn't needed before the school was there. So
Well,
that should
it will be
all-
a traffic calming on that area anyway, because Juniper is a high traffic area between Schaefer and Buhack.
Please do. percentage the school and the city are paying?
I don't recall what the exact percentage was. I know there was some discussion of that. Some balance was achieved because of the other costs that the school district was.
Okay.
Any other council questions? This? Okay. Any public comments on this section? Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at you, but the light's over here. Okay.
Gotta look up, Mayor.
Hold on,
Look
just
up.
a second. Just a second, Debbie. Let's have Councilman Ambrose ask this question.
On the 5-year capital improvement program, under the ARPA funds for the Roslyn Park restrooms, could we go ahead and get that struck out? Mainly because I want to be able to have us actually look into this a little bit more after just viewing what's out there at Osborne. I'm not too thrilled, especially when we were talking about that could be possibly what's out at Roslyn. So
We can do that if council chooses, but I think Justin can speak to that. At the workshop, it was also talked about the fact that we're funding it, but you don't have to. This is a test with Osborne. We can see what works and what doesn't work and change the design. So that's a choice that council can make.
Now, is that something we could pull out and earmark for Councilman Ambrose at a later date? Like if it's not this year, you know, like for next year or whatever, till we find something.
Not for ARPA.
Okay. Public comment.
Thank you. Take advantage of my time. So what I heard Lori was just saying is when you referenced, can I pull it out, use it maybe next time, pull it from ARPA? No, you can't. You're going to get one chance to use this ARPA money. This one chance. It's one-time money. We get it. So we're asking you to do one time the right thing and dig in there, find some money, give a distribution to these hardworking individuals, and not only the folks in the reflective gear, right? But we've also got a lot of clerical support staff that each and every one of you depend on each and every day. That everybody in this city can pick up the phone and call to get help and get directed and triaged to what they need. And so they're hurt, they're upset. There's probably a whole lot of adjectives that I could use that are not appropriate for this forum. So please reconsider. You can afford a pickleball court down the road. You can afford to pay, you know, some of your other little pet projects down the road. You have a lot of money in your fund balance right now. This budget's doing really well. Your projected revenues are very strong. You've got one chance to spend this money on these folks. Please reconsider.
All right. Anybody else in the public wish to speak on this item, this section? Well, staff's finished with their presentation. This is your chance, Jim. You get 3 more minutes. Then we're done.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that here.
Again, I just want to finish up what I began earlier, but I wanted to preface it by saying that I wholeheartedly disagree with my very dear friend Linda Dash that I don't think that wages for the city council are warranted under any circumstance. So, well, I get it. But in any case, we went down that road once before, and once you roll it, it's a snowball that just picks up steam and gets bigger, and it's a piece of meat that chew it, and it just gets harder. Any case, what's not in the budget? Again, litigation. You guys got a bunch of litigation that's going on right now, and you got some money that's going to go out of here, and you know it, I know it, the whole world knows it. You better figure it out, guys. That's all I can say. Speaking of promotion, Ferrari Ranch is still nothing but a dust bowl. It's nothing more than a acreage for plowing up and planting melons or whatever they're planting out there. That wasn't the intent of Ferrari Ranch. Bell, you look out on Bell, you got parcels out there that have been laying out there for God knows how long. Nothing's being done out there. There's commercial property straight across from Buhack Colony High School. What's being done about it? You want to talk about using ARPA money? How about putting together a marketing and promotion plan, which also includes marketing materials that you can go ahead and take someplace, any place, and show it off and get the city to have something in those areas that are lying dormant right now. It's just not happening. And a couple of gas stations and, you know, a new Starbucks, so what? Where's the good stuff? Where is the good stuff? You got Ferrari Ranch up there that's right next to the freeway. Is there something wrong with that property out there that can't be done? It needs to be done. And I know that fire, because I remember talking to the chief, back in 2018 about needing a new fire station once that's fully developed. Where's the money going to come from? That's a thing to think about. So when it comes to the commercial property and all these types of things, and I'm sure, Greg, you probably addressed this, but we also need water meters by 2025. And that's all coming either by way of the general plan or some kind of grant funding or something. But I haven't seen anything here budgeted on any of that either. So instead of buying, memorials to nothing and plastic Christmas trees, and yeah, it's plastic, it goes in a box and it gets brought out the next year, and all that kind of stuff, it's time to start thinking about spending money that really and truly benefits the city and the city's employees around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to the council. Then, let's see, I'll now close the public hearing. Okay. Brian, you got your light turned on.
I was going to comment to what former Mayor Price said. A lot of those are private properties owned by private individuals that have had offers that haven't wanted to sell. So that's part of the problem. If we can't go in and strong arm them to sell. Across from Buhack High School and over on Bell Crossing, or Bell Crossings over there. So that's been an issue. Some of them have sold and some things are in the works in some places. We're just not there yet to where we can talk about it. So things are happening, things are moving because Director Thompson has been working his tail off trying to make these happen. And, hopefully in the future we'll see the fruits of his labor.
Any other council members? Okay, I'll say a few words. Thank you, Jim. I agree with you. No one council benefits. It's nothing but, it's just a mess. And same with the I'll call it the slush fund. I know that's not what it's called, but that's what we called it at the county. It creates nothing but problems for the council members. Once people find out that you got money to give, all of a sudden, you talk about giving a cell phone to everybody so they answer the phone. They won't want to be answering their phone because people will be calling, hey, I want some of that money. We don't need it. It's not worth it, my opinion. Economic development promotion, it's a good thing. Has had a meeting with Mr. Thompson today about that very same thing. And but if we go to trade shows and whatnot, we need to have a package put together. This is what Atwater has to offer you, Mr. Developer. So that's being discussed, definitely. And as Brian mentioned, there are things brewing, but they're not to the point where they can be discussed publicly. So that's all I had on that. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for being here. First of all, we did have the budget session a couple weeks ago, May 30th, and we discussed a lot of this information in more depth. And so now we're at the point where we're going to make a decision on what we're going to do about it. So what, Brian?
Can the ARPA funds be separated from the budget for vote? As two different votes?
So I'll let Delilah respond to that, but when we had the workshop on the 30th, that was the whole point of incorporating it in the budget so that we can start these projects moving forward and we can spend this one-time money for one-time projects and meet the deadline that is put on us. That's why we had the workshop on the 30th. But Delilah can say, it'd have to intertwine because it's all commingled.
Yeah, so the funds do have to be obligated by December 31st, 2024. So just pushing it off would just hold off staff moving forward on obligating those funds.
Well, there could be like a separate vote for the ARPA today. That's what I'm saying. Is that possible or no?
Frank, you want to weigh in on that, please?
Yeah, the council can adopt the budget as presented. They can carve something out, vote separately on something. I think the real question is, it has to be sufficiently clear so Delilah knows what her marching orders are. Just, because it can be a technical budget document, so we just want to make it clear. But yes, you can move it around.
Okay, what's the council's pleasure? That it doesn't work.
Okay. You mind if, I did want to circle back to Councilmember Ambreese's concern with the bathroom and, if we're not quite sure what's going to take place, once the one at Osborne's put in, what are our options with those funds? Perhaps those can be, put towards something different. Because I do share some of the same concerns that Councilman Ambreese has.
Can we have Justin talk about that? You gave a good explanation at the budget workshop about what bathrooms we're actually going to put in at Ralston. I think we need bathrooms over there, from what I hear from people.
Yeah, so at the budget workshop, we just stated, right now, you guys were just going to establish a budget. Later on, we can do some outreach and figure out what type of bathrooms you like. If you don't like the ones that are at Osborne, we can look at other options. If this is just a budget, you're not choosing any bathroom.
Yeah, so this is very high level, but the specifics have not been decided upon yet.
Correct.
Okay. But if we don't have the money in there for it, then spend the money elsewhere, then we're going to have to find the money, right? Okay.
Correct. I mean, you could lower the amount of money that's in there as well, if that's something that you wanted to do. You wanted to keep that line item in there and put $50,000 in there in ARPA and choose $100,000 for whatever else, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, another option would also be, instead of pulling all of ARPA, pull whatever is undecided, and staff could come back for a budget amendment instead of removing the whole fund from the budget document.
Yeah, I was actually just telling Councilmember Raymond the same thing. Maybe best just to, the other option is to adopt the budget as is, but you could also append your motion to say staff bring back the ARPA for potential budget amendment for the new fiscal year. That's essentially what you're saying, right, Delilah? Justin, yeah.
Yeah, public hearing's been closed, yes.
We went over high level, so in the budget presentation.
It was discussed in depth at the it was discussed at the last budget workshop more in depth.
I also have pet peeves, pet issues that I want to get out and do that, and I've left them aside. Because, the complaints I hear on a day-to-day basis is that our city's not running the way it should be running. That our parks aren't clean enough. That everything that we're doing is wrong. Or it's right sometimes. I feel like I'm being ambushed by you guys tonight. We had a budget meeting and you weren't there.
John, before we get.
I'm just telling you how I feel.
Mr. Kale.
Hang on, let me just.
Well, I appreciate your comment. I appreciate your comments, but let's don't make it adversarial here.
I'm not trying to make it adversarial.
Okay, I warned you.
I'm just saying that I'm saying that I see you guys all the time out in the street, Never once been approached by you. Hey, you know what? This is what we would really like that. Never once. I see people all the time who go, you know what? I have a problem with my house at this area. I don't see that. I would have loved to take our ARPA money and put a dog park in the place. I would have loved to have been able to do stuff and make it better for our community. We balanced this budget for what, the fourth or fifth time in a row? We're here to help you guys get to work in the city, and we thank you for everything you did during the COVID years. Thank God you had a job during that time, because there are other people out there who didn't. All right,
Time for a public hearing, I understand that, but on behalf of your employees, okay?
Steph, you're out of order. We're not in public.
He just offended your employees.
We're aware of what's. We haven't made, Stephanie, we haven't made a decision yet on anything. I attempted to restrain him. Everybody up here is their own individual. They can say what they want to their own detriment. So. Excuse me, you, sir, you are out of order. No, you don't have 3 minutes. We don't have public comment right now, but you're out of order. We're done with the public comment. Please don't antagonize the setting here. We're trying to keep things calm, cool, and somewhat collected. So, but yeah, no more public comment. Should we take a break? Okay. Okay, so the point that we're at right now is, would any council member like to make a motion regarding this item? Approval of the budget and other stuff on here.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Thank you. Second. No. I'm asking for a second. I guess it dies for lack of a second.
So I'll motion to approve the budget as is, coming back with the ARPA monies as a budget amendment after the fiscal year begins.
Okay, Frank, please clarify that.
Yeah, so what he's doing, he's basically saying that we're going to adopt the budget as is tonight, but with the stipulation and direction that staff at the beginning of the new fiscal year come back with a discussion for potential budget amendment as it relates to the ARPA funds. Is that understood, Delilah? Yes. Justin, I see you shaking your head as well. So essentially what that means is it freezes the use of the ARPA funds until that discussion in the early fiscal year, which is obviously just around the corner. It creates the administrative simplicity to pass it, adopt it tonight, so the rest of city business can move forward.
What he said.
Okay, so as is, we are accepting the ARPA funding as presented, but with the stipulation that it's going to come back for review.
Yes, which effectively freezes it until that at the next fiscal year, which is, less than 20 days away or whatever it is.
Second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Ambrose. Kale?
I can live with that, yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for their participation this evening on that part of the meeting. So I know it's a difficult subject for everybody. But we want to continue to work with everybody as well. Okay, so now we have other business to carry on with. We'll take we're not taking a recess. We'll just take a short break here. Anybody that wants to stay is welcome. If you want to go home to your families, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, moving along here. Item 15 is a report or presentation from staff to approve the new Schedule A agreement with CAL FIRE from July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2026 for fire service operations. Chief Ayuso, please present your report.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. Before you tonight, the agenda item is a 3-year cooperative fire protection services agreement between the City of Atwater and CAL FIRE. And just a brief background on that, CAL FIRE has had the opportunity to provide these services since 2008, so roughly 15 years. Proud to say that I've been here for about half of that time, as well as many of the individuals standing behind the room there. I do want to note that in no way, shape, or form does this change the fact that this is still the Atwater City Fire Department, and it's Atwater City Fire Stations, Atwater City Fire Equipment, staffed with CAL FIRE employees. We are contracted to come in and run the operations of the fire department and represent the Atwater City Fire Department in a professional manner. With that being said, we'll reiterate a few things that our finance director did an outstanding job with presenting this evening, but staff has worked diligently to provide a balanced budget while also trying to increase our staffing. I know that everybody's heard on multiple occasions that I've wanted to see that, and none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the support that we've had from our council as well as the public in supporting to renew a tax measure that was able to provide funding to support that. Just so you're aware, our current 1-year contract expires on June 30th. That was for just over $3.6 million. The proposed agreement is for 3 years, as the finance director stated. Year 1 is nearly $5.5 million. That is to increase close to $1.9 million, and that is all personnel. That would be 2 additional fire captains, 6 firefighters, and 1 office technician, nearly doubling our current staff. That would allow for 3-person staffing at both fire stations. I'm excited to bring these gentlemen back after we see that staffing, should it get approved, and you can see a lot more bodies here to support the city and the community. So years 2 and 3, there will not be any increase of personnel. However, in that contract is a 5% escalator that is included, and that's just to cover any potential salary or benefit increases during that time period. For the total of the 3 years, it's not to exceed $17,335,220. I do want to note as well that the city only pays actual costs. So if we have vacancies or anything like that, we only pay actual costs on a quarterly basis. The appropriate funds, as you just heard, have been budgeted in the 23-24 fiscal budget. Again, this just is going to be huge, should it approve, be able to have 3 people on each fire engine and give the ability to maintain a service that is much needed here in the community. It is recommended in the future during agreements, rather than having to increase these numbers at one time like we are and seeing a drastic increase, it would be advisable that we try to do that incrementally in the future, should we be able to continue. So another note, it allows for close relations with neighboring departments such as Merced County Fire, who also contracts with CAL FIRE. We have an auto aid agreement. We work closely with them. And that allows efficiency and reduces redundancy with utilizing those resources in that aspect. We also have the training center, other different aspects that the contract's able to provide services that are beneficial to the city. In closing, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I do have Chief Pimentel in the back, who's here as well if you have any questions to direct at him. And I appreciate the opportunity that I've had working here in the city of Atwater. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Raymond?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you and Chief Lopes for your guys' leadership and what you guys have done out there. And it must be a big day to get Pimentel back in Atwater. So something must be going on tonight.
I would also like to say that just so you can see the retention, I've worked here almost 9 years in the city of Atwater. Captain Perez was a Atwater City firefighter when the contract came over. Captain Bernard's worked here nearly 5 years as a captain, so we do have a lot of retention with employees. The other two, one of them was a reserve firefighter actually with the city of Atwater as well.
Captain Bernard always takes care of my grandma, so we love him.
Any other council comments or questions?
So, when will we get 3 people per?
Good question. So I was told that by the administrative officer that if we get a signed resolution, it could be as quick as 30 days turnaround. But I can assure you that when we do get that those personnel positions coded, we can fill them pretty quick.
Okay, great.
I wouldn't anticipate any sooner than August 1st, just for the delays in trying to get the turnaround on the signed resolution and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Get the position coding.
Okay, my comments, no questions, but comments. I want to thank CAL FIRE for their being good cooperator, being cooperative as we're your local cooperator. You've done a good job, you know, as a retired Atwater City fire engineer. I do, you know, you guys are kind of special to me. I also want to thank the residents of Atwater, the ones that voted for Measure B. Because of that, we are going to be able to cover our stations with more personnel. We're going to get new equipment, the Type 6 engines. People have been asking for improved response times, especially on medical calls, and I think this is going to be an interesting experiment to see how well it works, but I think you have a good opportunity now with the staffing to improve the quality of life for our residents, so I appreciate that.
Very much so.
Okay. Does anybody in the public have any comments on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, community members. Gabe Santos again. Again, I can't emphasize, as a training captain at the time of the transition to CAL FIRE on October 1st of 2008, it's a day we'll never forget. It was a good move for the city of Atwater. And I'm very, very excited to see us moving forward with some additional staffing and additional hard work that's been done by not only the fire department, but all the public safety, which will benefit all of the other departments in the city. So it's really nice to see the staffing come into play, as we've seen over the last couple of years, some serious fires that have happened here in the city of Atwater. That staffing will make a big difference and improve the overall quality of life for all. As a citizen, as a property owner, as a landlord, I'm very excited to see that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Just a quick question here. Once you get to 3 staff in the stations, as we all know, I guess probably 90+% of your calls are medical calls. So you have 3 guys in the station now going 3 guys to a medical call. If it's, you know, code blue, you know, full arrest type thing, something like that, and extra hands are needed. In the past, the problem has been that you guys have had, you put somebody in the back of the ambulance to do CPR, whatever you're doing. But under 3 staffing, could you put 1 person in there and still maintain your availability with 2 on the engine to be 2 in, 2 out status at that point, or is that going to change?
I know you're directing that question to me.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, okay, just so you know. So I know Bobby's talked about this before, but would you please explain it once again?
Yeah, and
Everybody-
a great question, because that does happen. I will correct you on the statistics. It is about 70% medical. However, I do look in the future to change our response plans, which I have an opportunity to review each year. And a big thing that I've been preaching is we have 5 call types that we currently respond both pieces of equipment. If you have a code blue right now, all 4 of those guys are gone. They're committed to an incident. We have no resources available to the city of Atwater. With the increased staffing, I'm going to change that call type to 1 engine, vehicle accidents to 1 engine, vegetation fires to 1 engine. What that'll do is it'll free up another resource to respond to calls and incidents in the city. Now, if we do send a rider, which does happen frequently, that rider would be the fireman. And ideally, yes, we would still be able to be available for emergency responses with 2 personnel, be a captain and engineer. Right now, when that happens, we end up with 1 person on a fire engine, which is truly unsafe to send them out that way. So ideally, yes, I'm glad you brought that up, but that is the plan.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, seeing no further comment, would any council member like to make a motion regarding this item?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Kale, second by Ambrose. Kale?
Yes.
I'm sorry, second, I said that wrong. I don't even know. In my mind, I knew that Ambrose was no longer here, so I apologize. Motion by Raymond, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
It was the excitement.
Item 16, waiving the first reading by title only and introducing an ordinance amending section 8.16.260, solid waste, recyclables, and organic waste collection of chapter 8, health and safety of the Atwater Municipal Code. Justin, would please give your report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, this is just a minor revision to Chapter 18. A year and a half ago, when we created this ordinance, we kind of changed it up to meet SB 1383. We left our single-family residential at 2 container because that's what we had. We weren't sure if we were going to go to 3 container for single-family residential, but when we got the bids back and we selected Mid-Valley, the 3 container is what we chose. So we're just making the ordinance consistent with what's going to be in effect July 1st, 2023. So if there's any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. Any council questions? Any public questions, public comments? Seeing nobody come forward, would any council member like to make a motion?
Motion to approve as recommended.
I'll second.
Motion by Kale, second by Button. Kale?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Tyler, did I pass you over or something? No. Okay, well, now it worked. Yeah, it turned on. It turned on. Okay. You know, these have been here since I worked here as a firefighter. That's been a long time. So maybe we should have had that in the budget. There you go. Okay, item 17 is also, let's see, set a public hearing date for the new solid waste rates and rate adjustment. Justin.
This is Brian's favorite item on the agenda. You asked for this. No. Anyways,
Did.
we have Wilden Financial on a call on our teams. They're going to give a presentation on the sanitation rate study, give you guys some background on it, and after the presentation's over, me or them can answer any questions you guys have. So Jeff McGarvey and Chris Fisher's on there. I'm not sure which person's going to present.
Chris, I think I'm going first. I think Chris is going to help out towards the end with the Prop 218 information. This is Jeff McGarvey, joined by Chris Fisher, my colleague here at Willdan Financial Services. And just to confirm, we don't have control of the presentation. We'll just need to let you folks know when we're ready to move forward. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to that. Yep, there you go. Just very briefly, what we were retained to do by the city was essentially to develop a 5-year financial plan, identify the projected revenue requirements of the sanitation system, and then develop recommendations for rate adjustments that would fully and appropriately cover those operational costs or revenue requirements. Next slide, please. To do this, we had worked with the staff to collect a great deal of information. The staff was able to provide us with 5 years or more of financial audits of operating reports, which showed revenues and expenses in the 2024 budget. They worked very hard with us on billing and customer information. We had some challenges there, but we were able to overcome them. But we had 2018 through present customer information. And then, of course, we get copies of current contracts, agreements, and other relevant documents. And we took all this information and compiled it in some of our analytical models and tools that we use. And what we're looking for there is to determine what your system, your sanitation system's full revenue requirements are. Full revenue requirements generally include O&M expenses, capital expenditures, vehicle and equipment replacement expenses. It would include things like debt service coverage margins, and then, of course, your cash reserve targets. Given the nature of your operations, the fact that much of your operations is handled by the Mid-Valley Disposal Contract, capital expenditures, vehicle and equipment replacement expenses, debt service, and the coverage margins are not applicable in this case. So the focus for us was on O&M and on cash reserves. So that's what we try to focus on. That represents our total system revenue requirements, and that's what our rates and fees should recover. Next slide, please. Some of the factors to consider, the budgeted increase or the increase in O&M from 23 to 24 was approximately 87%. And somebody alluded to it earlier, the SB 1383 law really had an impact on the provision of sanitation services in California. So that's primarily what's driving the increase to contractual services. 2 factors. One is that SB 1383, which is a fairly new law, an unfunded state mandate. And the other thing that impacts sanitation around the country really is the kind of an unsettled global market for recycling. We're not going to get into that this evening. Can't present ourselves as experts in that market, but we know from our clients and interaction with them that has been a big deal in the provision of solid waste services. Next slide. Just a kind of a brief reminder of what 1383 has done. It has required all California cities to establish mandatory organic collection and recycling for all customers. So that, you can imagine, that's a pretty heavy lift and an expensive proposition. The city has to provide public education and outreach. They have to be in compliance reviews, audits, inspections, code enforcement, and all of these things from the mandates from the SB 1383 have resulted in a significant increase in the cost for hauling and processing of organic material, for the services required to perform all these waste audits, all the compliance issues around SB 1383. Those have driven operating costs up. Buying new containers, for separate containers for organic waste collection, things like that have really caused an increase in the cost of sanitation services. So next slide. Our first step in this is what we call the status quo or do nothing scenario. So what we have in this chart is just a brief summary of cash flow over the next 5 years of the sanitation fund. So you can see that first 2024, the first line is got a cash balance of about $3 million. Total revenues of about 5, O&M of about 8. So your net cash flow with no rate adjustments, with no adjustments at all, is is a negative $3 million, and you fully deplete your cash by the end of fiscal year 2024. And if you note the next 4 years, that deficit does not go away without rate adjustments, and it just keeps getting larger by the time you get to 2028. Obviously, this is not a sustainable scenario, but we got to start with where we are. So just establish what where we are and what the magnitude of changes might be necessary. Next couple of slides, next one please, is just a graphical representation of that chart. One graphical representation is the net results of status quo. Looking at this chart, the deep blue bars are revenues, the light blue are expenditures, and you can see the expenditures far exceed revenues. And that black line floating around below is the net results. Obviously, you don't want that line to be below zero. So this is, again, an unsustainable scenario. Next slide, please. This is just a graphical representation of the cash reserves if there's no rate adjustments made. As I mentioned, 2024, there are fully depleted your cash reserves, and it just keeps, that hole just keeps getting deeper with no changes through 2028. So next slide. All right, so the proposed rate recommendations, we worked with the staff, with Justin and his folks to kind of talk through what are our objectives here. And the two main objectives were to align your rates with those being charged by Mid-Valley Disposal. So in other words, your rates now align or synchronize with rates being charged, which makes it real easy to calibrate them to satisfy Prop 218 and make sure they are cost of service based. The next objective was to mitigate the impact to monthly bills by phasing in the new rates over a 2-year period. Rather than saying, hey, they're going to start right away in 2024, there's going to be a year transition period, and the cash shortfall, the operating shortfall in that year will be offset by cash reserves. So next slide. We have a long list of all of your rates, current and the first year the proposal rates. We're not going to go through all of them. We're happy to ask any questions you might have about any specific rate, but just to pick out a couple of these, that first one, your residential curbside 96 gallon, that is where most of your customers are. You can see that rate is currently at $32.11 a month. It's going to go up about 20% a month in the first year, and again in the second year until it arrives at what the true cost from Mid-Valley Disposal is. Now, there's an element to this besides Mid-Valley, which is the city's own administrative costs. There are certain costs that are incurred just to run the system as a city, even though Mid-Valley conducts most of the operations. So there is a second element to the rate, and that was just distributed evenly by customer. The other thing I want to point out too is that the monthly increases that have been proposed vary for each customer group. They're not going to just be everybody's 20%. They are aligned with what is being charged by Mid-Valley, and so the adjustment may vary between certain service levels. If we go down to just the next slide, this is where the commercial service levels begin, and we'll just pick out one more as an example. That 3 cubic yard bin twice a week. As you guys know, commercial rates are set based on the size of the bin and as well as the frequency of trash collection. So for a 3 cubic yard bin picked up twice a week, they would experience an increase of about 33% in that first year. So again, it varies based on how it's reconciled to the Mid-Valley contract. So if it's okay with you, we can skip down through this chart, which is just all of your rates, unless somebody wants to
ask a
question about
That's okay to move
rate.
ahead. No.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to look at all the numbers. I mean, we could see them.
No,
you don't have to read them all, please.
I wouldn't want to look at them either, so I understand. So what this brings us to is that chart that we saw earlier of status quo kind of restated under the proposed rates. So you'll see that the cash reserves is still starting at $3 million, but our revenues increased to 6.9, and in the second year it goes up to 8.6. That's it phasing up to the Mid-Valley rates. The O&M expenses stay the same as the status quo. You see our net cash flow has been reduced from 3 million to 1.1 million, 1.2 million. And we have cash reserves at the end of each year. You can see that net cash flow then zeroes out. That means we have effectively balanced your costs to your revenues. You're not over recovering, you're not under recovering. You've balanced your costs and revenues. So you can see in the last two rows of that table, you've got a declining days cash on hand, which is to be expected because revenues are relatively static. They're not completely static, but expenses are increasing a little faster than revenues. So you're eating up some of that projected cash reserve on hand, but you're above the 30-day target. We established a 30 days of operating expenses days cash on hand as our target, and you are above that in each of the 5 years. Next slide is just another graphical kind of re-presentation of that chart. You can see again that we got that little bit of the shortfall in year 1, 2024, but then after that, revenues and expenditures align, and you're moving along at a healthy, sustainable pace. Next slide would be cash reserves, again restated. You can see the black line is our target. You're above that target, and every year you have a little bit of surplus cash, which you can manage. It's unrestricted cash. You can manage to your pleasure. So that is available, and it's a healthy, sustainable financial picture. So the next slide is the 218 process. We understand that staff's going to recommend that you direct them to initiate Prop 218 process, to make these rate adjustments, set the public hearing date for August 14th of 2023. Your notices will be mailed in late June. Protest letters would be accepted until August 14th, 2023. So our next steps are to get these notices sent out to all of your property owners and ratepayers in late June, to set that hearing date of the 14th at 6 p.m. And then implementation of the new rates would start on September 1st, 2023.
Yeah, and just to echo what Jeff said, the Prop 218 law in California requires that before rates for any land associated type of fee, water, wastewater, or solid waste, which we're talking about tonight, there has to be a public hearing conducted. Anyone has the opportunity during the period after which the notices are mailed to submit a written protest to the city, and those protests will be kept up until the close of the public hearing. Once the public hearing is closed on August 14th, the clerk will tabulate those protests. And as long as there are there are not protests from any more than a majority of the property owners or customers, and we mail to both. The law requires that we mail to owners of property as well as any persons with leasehold interest, as it's defined. Essentially, what that means is renters, folks that they're living in properties but are not the owners of that property. So any of those folks can submit a protest. Only one is counted per property. So if we got a protest from both the property owner and their tenant, only one would be counted for that property. So those are tabulated at the close of the public hearing, and then the council will have the discretion, as long as there is not a majority protest, to then proceed with discussion and implementation of the rates following that public hearing on August 14th. So we've got the notice as part of the package that's been drafted, and it essentially informs the ratepayers and all the property owners, what we're talking about here tonight, how much the rates are going to change and why. Informs them about the location and time for the public hearing and how they can participate and how they can submit a protest. And those are ready to mail the last week of June, as soon as we can, the last week of June. And that'll give at least 45 days from the time those are mailed until the day the public hearing is conducted as required by Prop 218.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate that. Does the council have any questions for Justin or the consultants? Nope, not seeing any. Okay. Any member of the comment wish to speak on this item? Okay. Do we have a motion regarding setting the public hearing date?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kale. Oh my gosh. It's been a long night. I'm sorry. I apologize. Motion by Button, second by Raymond. Kale?
Yes.
Raymond?
Unfortunately, yes.
Button?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Brian, you're only setting the hearing date.
Still depressing,
Well,
but better than it could be, according to Justin.
okay. Now we're on to, we're getting there. We're on to city manager updates.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're on to comments from the public. Janelle?
Let's see if I can read this correctly. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record, however, is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and or placed on a future agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Okay. Under the Brown Act, members of the public are entitled to directly address the city council as a legislative body of the city, not other members of the public or staff. I'm going to open the public comment now. Are there any speaker cards?
There are no speaker cards.
Okay. Are there any members of the public inside the chambers who would like to speak? Now is your chance.
Mary McWaters with AFSCME. A few things. First of all, Councilmember Mayor, I would like to say that this was not an orchestrated ambush tonight. This was simply our members' right to express how they feel. To come and sitting here was not an ambush. They just simply want you to know how they feel and show this was a sign of solidarity with our group. Second of all, in the past, we've received invites or notices of the public hearing, of the budget hearings. We did not this time, so that is why I was not there, okay? And I will say that I am very disappointed in your comments, Mr. Kell. Our people work very hard, and they deserve respect. And I'll leave it at that because I know more people want to talk. Thank you.
Anybody else? Maybe?
Just very briefly. Thank you again for your reconsideration of the ARPA funding and its uses for the next fiscal year. Also, hopefully we can work with Janelle to get our communication a little bit better so that our leadership and our union reps are made aware of of these workshops that are taking place so that we can make plans to attend. We, again, did not plan to do any ambushing. We actually requested a meet and confer. We were told no, that you had already decided what you were going to do. And so we had no choice but to come here and to display our unity. We'll have an open invitation for that meet and confer process. We hope that there will be some communication between city staff and the union and its leadership so that we can discuss next steps prior to fiscal year and our thoughts and ideas around the ARPA money. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Not everything is as bad as it seems.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm up here tonight now to speak to the Atwater 4th of July Committee, which I'm a member of, and actually I'm the president of. I just wanted to inform the public that our 4th of July celebration is on track. We're having one more meeting here on the 20th and finalizing everything. Ralston Park should have somewhere in the area of about 80 vendors, one of which that is going to be set up will be for Atwater Feed. So anybody that wants to come by there and make donations, that type of thing, is welcome to do so. That's a late addition, unfortunate to the process, but that's the way it happens sometimes. The parade itself is going to be long and extensive as always. Morning festivities will also include a good friend of mine, Steve Kaufman, singing the national anthem at the reviewing stand across from Ralston Park. Great singer, and we'll have that going on. Leading up to that, I want to thank the CAL FIRE guys. They'll be bringing out the ladder truck to Castle that evening and displaying the American flag from the, well, I was going to say from the tiller up, but any case, it'll be raised real high and everybody will see it. I also want to thank the Public Works folks and everybody in the staff for helping to, you know, put out the barriers and do the things that need to be done in order to conduct the parade and have all the things happen as what it is. This is a huge undertaking. We plan all year long. It's very expensive, so much so our fireworks this year are probably in the neighborhood of about $6,000 more than previous year with no extras. It's the same amount and hopefully the same timing. This year, the fee to come in to Castle for the event will be $15 per carload. That's to help with the cost of the event. $5 for walk-ins, and the entertainment for that evening will be a band. It's a country band, and they're very high energy, by the name of Western Bound. Amanda Jeffries, if anybody knows that name, is the gal that's the lead singer of that group. Very, very good group, very high energy. It'll be a good time for all. So come on out. We're looking forward to a really great show and a great fireworks display. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Anybody else?
Linda Dash, Atwater. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak tonight regarding your budget. I hope you take some of my humble suggestions seriously. I know, Mike, you don't like a couple of them. And also, too, I'm so happy that these guys did have jobs during the COVID time, because if they didn't, we'd probably be swimming in our own poop. Thanks.
Kriston?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. Kriston Santos, representing the office of Congressman John Duarte. The Congressman had the pleasure of speaking with Atwater FFA advisor, Mr. Platt, at the fair this weekend, and he'd like to congratulate Atwater FFA on another successful year at the Merced County Fair. There is a lot of upcoming business. It's a very busy week in the House. I'll go quicker than I planned. Tomorrow morning, Congressman Duarte will be participating in a full committee markup on the Natural Resources Committee. There's going to be a focus on streamlining the federal management of public lands and national forests. On Wednesday, Congressman Duarte will be participating in a hearing on the Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries Subcommittee to discuss 3 bills regarding water storage in the western United States and the relationship with the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Reclamation. And on Thursday, the Congressman will be participating in a full Natural Resources Committee hearing with notable witnesses, including the Governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. The Congressman's proud to be a co-sponsor of H.R. 3397 to require the Director of the Bureau of Land Management to withdraw a new BLM rule relating to conservation and landscape health. This new rule would be a seismic shift in public land management that would fundamentally upend the agency's multiple use mandate, which has guided land management practices in the West for nearly 50 years. The rule creates a new BLM lease for conservation under a single-use management plan. Thousands of rural economies depend on access to BLM lands for energy and mineral development, recreation, grazing, timber production, and enjoyment, which would be restricted under this single-use rule. Conservation within the rule is not defined, leaving it open to interpretation by overzealous federal agencies, and NGOs could buy up huge swaths of land under the guise of conservation. It also expands the definition of areas of critical environmental concern. This rule also doesn't have any specific measures regarding the source of funding for these purchases. So in theory, foreign adversaries like China could provide funding for these purchases and weaponize this rule against the American people by locking up land from use for grazing or energy production and threatening our domestic food and energy supply. Our office believes this rule presents a fundamental threat to rural communities across the West, and we will be supporting H.R. 3397. And on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, this is especially important for Atwater. We're going to be discussing the Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization for the next 5 years very soon, and we're going to be sure to provide regular updates on some of the new guidance and new grant funding opportunities that will be coming out of that discussion. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Gabe?
Good evening. Gabe Santos. I'll keep it to 30 seconds or less. But I know it was a long evening, but I want to specifically thank each of you for all your hard work during this budget time. I know it was a lot of work for everybody, the city manager, all the city council, mayor, and definitely all the program managers. Nothing happens without everybody, including all the way down to boots on the ground. So appreciate all of that and that hard work. And then happy Father's Day to everybody, too. I know we have better places we could be.
All right, thanks, Gabe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Corey Billings, 3236 Heather Glen Lane. Just a quick thank you to police and fire and even our public works department who responded to the fire and the loss of a business here in Atwater. It is a tragic loss. It was a family-owned business, and they have done a lot of great things for our community. That loss was immediately felt the next day when our FFA students had difficulty getting feed to go to the fair, and because their feed was due to be delivered to Atwater Feed. So Atwater Feed plays a vital role in our community, and I hope that through the fundraising efforts that are going on, the community continues to support them. Not only is it a loss of a business, but it's also a loss of one of our historic venues here in Atwater. The Atwater Feed was the original Atwater Switch. So that was the original place where Mr. Atwater was stationed, in which our city was located. So it is a huge loss for our community, and we want to continue to support the owners and make sure that you come out to those fundraisers. There are going to be several posted on social media so that they can rebuild and have a successful business here again in Atwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Tina Thurman, Atwater. First of all, I will apologize on behalf of our units for our outburst. However, we don't get to be disrespected any less than you would want to be disrespected. As much as we should be happy to have a job, you should be happy that we actually show up to work. If it wasn't for your clerical units, your police, your fire, your miscellaneous units, things wouldn't get taken care of in the city. You wouldn't get the extra funding that you have for your projects. So instead of tooting your own horn up here and degrading us, then you should actually acknowledge the people that you have that put the hard work in to make your city what it is.
Tina? Okay, no, that's fine. It's just, I know people aren't used to being in here, but just decorum-wise, it's to me. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. We're all learning. We're all learning here. Anybody else? Pastor Miller. You've been very quiet this evening.
I have been.
Yeah.
All right. Rich Miller, 334 Silva Drive, here in Atwater, Pastor Victory Baptist Church, 1280 Sierra Vista Street. So just got back with my wife and 3 other chaperones and 15 kids. We had the privilege of taking them to youth camp in Cuba, New Mexico this last week. And on the drive over there and the drive back, I was just reminded how beautiful our country is and how blessed we are to live in the United States of America. The young people were challenged by the guest preacher to remember that, as well as there are people in third world countries who don't have what we have. So we are very blessed. And while we should be fiscally responsible, we should also be morally responsible as citizens of the United States. I mention that because in the book of Proverbs, chapter number 14, verse 34, it says, "Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." Tomorrow I'll be heading to Sacramento because there are 2 hearings that I'm going to be attending, and I want to just encourage people to be involved in the legislative process in our state. First is an amendment to the Constitution. It's Amendment Constitution number 5. It's to change marriage and to remove a man and a woman from our state constitution as far as the guidelines for marriage or how the California Constitution states marriage is. This was actually a proposition that was presented, and it was on the ballot in 2020, and it was outvoted 57 to 43. Californians already ruled on it. They already voted what they wanted. And now our state government is wasting more time and more money to have a hearing about it and to try to bring it up again. And so I want to encourage people to be involved in that. But then also, there's an Assembly Bill 957 where in a custody situation, if a parent does not want to side, does not want to affirm that their child is going to change their gender, that they could possibly lose their custody rights. And it's wrong. It's just wrong what our state is doing. We're worried about recycling and sanitation, and we're confusing children. And Jesus was very clear about that you shouldn't offend little children, that you should protect them. And right now we have a battle going on in our country, and right here in the state of California, it's the front lines. We need to stand up for little children. We need to protect them. I know it's not politically correct. I know it may not be viewed as popular by some people, but I would like to encourage people to be involved and protect the children from all of the confusion that's going on in our world today.
All right, thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Okay.
Mayor, I don't know if you want to wait until public comment's done, but I had a quick update as well. Public comment.
Regarding?
Fireworks booth.
Oh, I have that on my list of things here.
Perfect. And then I wanted to, okay, go ahead. Let me know when I'm okay to talk.
When you hear me talk about fireworks, you can chime in. How's that? Okay, so I'm going to close public comment now. We're going to go to council member reports. Mr. Kale.
I like to go down my list as I wrote these. So on July 1st at the Atwater Veterans Memorial Building, or the Castle Veterans Organizational Building, a group of concerned Atwater residents will be holding a spaghetti dinner fundraiser for the Atwater feed store that recently caught fire and was destroyed. Please come and enjoy either a sit-down dinner or drive-through pickup and view and bid on a silent auction of some fabulous prizes. Let's get together and support the Faguglia family in their time of need. Next, I don't want to have a cell phone. I have one. I don't need one that was paid for by the city. I don't need a stipend. I do this because I love my city. Next, it's our judgment. We making a judgment up here, and I'm sorry I disappointed you guys by my statements, but I can't help how I feel. Appropriate time was given, and if you guys did not get to say what you wanted to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my statements, but I still stand by what I feel. Last thing I say is I'd like for you to please pray for our family as we go through the loss of a family member who was the matriarch of our family and a core member who passed away today. So I wish that you pray for the Ridge family as Tony Ridge passed away, and we will go on and go strong and still be there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're sorry for your loss. Mr. Button.
Okay. So the definition of a pet project is an activity or goal pursued as a personal favorite rather than because it is generally accepted as necessary or important. I'll just say that's a very poor choice of words. I'm not going to really get into it up here, but I understand in the position I'm in, and the folks that are up here sharing the dais with me here, we have to take criticism, and that's totally fine because I don't trust the government either. So, but I can tell you right now that there's no pet projects going on with ARPA. So you can just put that aside and we can have good conversation and we can have good dialogue. Totally down for that. Yeah, so I think that was interesting description. The other thing I just wanted to say was, thank you for Corey and some other folks talking about Atwater Feed Store and what's going on with that. And hopefully the community can rally together and do what we can to help them out. So, and happy Father's Day to everybody out there. And thank you.
Brian?
I have to echo the words of Pastor Miller. Our kids are the most important, in our lives. Their futures and their safety. And so I agree with him, and think we should all be in prayer for that. But I also want to mention that the one thing that is nice is driving around and actually seeing God's promise hang in different business windows. That's a good thing. I'm excited to see that.
Okay. So regarding Atwater Feed, it's a tragedy for our town, but what's going on, spaghetti feed? I mean, somebody jumped on that right away. Let's do something to help Atwater Feed. And that's neighbors helping neighbors. And that's what makes Atwater a great place to live. We hear about whatever, but Atwater is a good place to live. So please support that, the spaghetti feed as well. Measure B Oversight Committee. We are still accepting applications for the Measure B committee until June 30th. We have, eight applications in so far. We're selecting 5 people. So there's still opportunity to get in there. Good way to learn about what's going on. Delilah, this is Delilah's last meeting with us. She's going to greener pastures. But remember, grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence, but we wish you well in your new endeavors. Okay. And then fireworks. I was going to talk about the illegal firework ordinance, illegal fireworks that we're talking about. We passed that ordinance back in a couple months ago. And one of the things that's part of that is an app for your phone that you can anonymously report illegal fireworks being set off in your neighborhood. Now, how well it's going to work, I expect this to be a 2 to 3 year project. But I would hope that on the next council meeting that there be a presentation on the implementation have Chief Lopes here to make a presentation on the implementation of the app and try it. I tried it the other day. I don't know where it went. The reporting thing, it was before it got going. I don't know where it went. Of course, I didn't put my phone number in there for a contact callback either, but.
So I know towards the end of the week, he did get confirmation that it was live and active. So
Okay.
I don't know if maybe when you tried it, it didn't work.
I'll try it. I'll try it again. We'll see.
And I haven't checked the usability of it either.
Yeah. Okay. So you wanted to mention something about firework booths.
Yep, it was mainly on the topic of the app that you just brought up. And then I just want to sidebar and thank Justin's crew for the feed store fire as well. On multiple occasions for several days, he had loaders and backhoes out there to assist us, as well as main incident dispatch that morning, PD's help. It was greatly needed, and we do appreciate it. So thank you for continuously bringing your crews out to help us. That was all I had.
Okay. Thank you. With that, the meeting is adjourned.